I was thinking about another reason that Musk may have ventured into Bitcoin. It may have been a distraction. I mean, maybe there are some problems at Tesla, bigger problems with their products and their earnings. They got some problems in China that Musk would rather not deal with. So by getting into Bitcoin, it takes people's attention off of some of the problems and has them focus on Bitcoin. I think that's exactly what happened with Michael Saylor and Mirostrategy. I mean, I think that stock was probably having problems as a company. And so kind of to change the conversation, he decided to turn the company into a Bitcoin ETF so he wouldn't have to deal with it. And in fact, now that the company is a Bitcoin ETF, the price has skyrocketed, although it's down quite a bit from its highs. It's almost dropped 50%. You know, it was at $1,315 a share, and today it's at $817, which was a 14% gain on the day. Yesterday, the stock was down like 23%. Now, it's still way above where it started this run. The stock's got a 52-week low of 90, and so at 817, it's almost 10 times the 52-week low. So it's had a huge ride on the Bitcoin train, but ultimately it's going to come crashing down even faster. But you know, I think what happened too is Michael Saylor took advantage of this run up in his stock. I think he's been selling shares. I'm not really sure what percentage of his overall holdings have been sold, but he basically got the company to buy Bitcoin. And by buying a bunch of Bitcoin, the price of the stock went up, and then he didn't sell any Bitcoin. He just sold his shares, which was a way to pump and dump his stock by pumping it up with a bunch of overpriced Bitcoin and then taking advantage of the mania, not by selling any Bitcoin, but by selling his shares that basically rose temporarily as a function of the decision to buy Bitcoin. And matter of fact, I had agreed to debate Michael Saylor on friendly turf. The guy that was going to moderate the debate was pro-Bitcoin. So I was willing to do that, but Michael Saylor was not. He refused this invitation. The guy really wanted to make it happen. I had already agreed, and he decided that he didn't want to do it. And I don't blame him. I mean, why would he want to debate me? I mean, he's going to lose. He's going to look foolish trying to say all this nonsense. I mean, I saw him go on CNBC the other day. He was being interviewed by Joe Kernan, who is, a Bitcoin bull. You look on his on image, he's got the laser beam eyes. And, I like Joe. I mean, he's a nice guy. We've got a lot of things in common. But, I mean, he is so drunk on the Bitcoin Kool-Aid that he is letting Saylor say all kinds of crazy things. I mean, crazy. I mean, this guy was saying that not only was Bitcoin going to flip gold and take all of gold's market share and basically make gold worthless, right? But it was going to take all the sovereign debt markets, that Bitcoin was going to have the value of all the gold and all the sovereign bonds, and that everybody was just going to own Bitcoin and nothing else, and that just the price was going to go, I don't know, to $1 million, and like it couldn't go down. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. That, I mean, if I came on there and tried to say anything 1/100th that crazy about gold or anything else, they wouldn't let me do it. They would be yelling at me or talking about my objectivity. And again, I read all these reports too. A lot of these articles were written about the Elon Musk tweets about how Peter Schiff is this renowned Bitcoin critic. I'm a Bitcoin critic, and everybody, because it's a lot of Bitcoin related publications that are reporting on the exchange between Musk and myself. And they all point out that I sell gold, and therefore I'm biased against Bitcoin. I mean, nobody can talk about or write about my opposition to Bitcoin without mentioning that I'm biased because I sell gold. Meanwhile, they never mention the bias of everybody who is pro-Bitcoin, especially when 100% of their livelihood depends on Bitcoin, right? They run a Bitcoin fund or a crypto fund or a business that's tied to Bitcoin. They've got their whole net worth in Bitcoin, and somehow they're not biased. But me, I make a small percentage of my income selling gold, right? Maybe not even 10% of my income I make selling gold. It's a side business. My main business is asset management. And if I wanted to manage Bitcoin, I can manage that, right? There's nothing that's stopping me from launching a Bitcoin fund. In fact, if I wanted to be pro-Bitcoin and launch a Bitcoin fund, I could raise as much money as anybody else, right? So I'm not the one that's biased. The ones that are biased are the ones that are pro-Bitcoin and betting their whole life on Bitcoin. And of course, when you own Bitcoin, you have to come out and tell everybody how great it is because you need more buyers. You have to sucker more people into the scheme. You need constant inflow of buyers. So there's where the bias is. And by the way, I have been watching the shares of the Grayscale Trust recently, and they have been constantly trading at a slight discount to their net asset value. Now, part of that is because the Canadians have launched a Bitcoin ETF, so now they've got some competition. Why pay a big premium when you can buy an ETF? And by the way, the management fees on that ETF are lower than the fees that you would pay Grayscale. So I think the gravy train is over for Grayscale. They're not going to be getting a lot of new inflows with which to buy up Bitcoin in the open market. And Grayscale has been the biggest buyer of Bitcoin, and now they're not going to buy anymore. So the question is, who is going to pick up the slack and buy all the Bitcoin that Grayscale is no longer buying? And if there's nobody there, well, then the price is going to crash. And yes, maybe Square has bought some, and maybe Tesla has bought some, and Mirostrategy. Everybody thinks there's a whole bunch of companies queuing up to do the same thing. Well, I don't think so, especially if Tesla enters a bear market so quickly after its decision to buy Bitcoin. Why would other corporate CEOs want to make the same decision when they can already see what the results have been?